Jimmy Kimmel wasn't sorry. Okay, we played the soundbite on our show for you yesterday, and I'll play it here now just for those of you who haven't heard what got him indefinitely suspended. He's fired. We'll see, unless Disney bends the knee. But right now, it's not looking good for old Jimbo. Here's what he said in SOT 7.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
So he's a despicable pig. And he said that when he knew that it wasn't the case. The evidence had been ubiquitous about this person's left-leaning and commitment to left-wing ideology. We've gone through it repeatedly. You all know. And all of that was out before Jimmy Kimmel said that on Monday night. Did he come out on the air on Tuesday night and try to correct his lie? No, because it was a lie. It was an intentional misstatement of fact meant to mislead you. It was not a mistake, as some left-wing defenders are saying right now on X. And his plan on Wednesday was not to go out and apologize that night either. His plan, according to the Hollywood Reporter, was to go out and claim that he was the victim because it was taken out of context. And he was going to give us the proper context in which somehow his lie about MAGA at a time when MAGA is under greater threat than it's been in quite some time, that he ginned up that hatred during such a time when MAGA's grieving in a way it hasn't been so profoundly since I've known it, that he did that in a way that was just simply out of context. Okay, more lies. And so the stations groups from Nexstar and others, by the way, it wasn't just Nexstar, Sinclair went to Disney and said, we're not running this show. We're not going to be a part of this. Not now, not ever. We're no longer going to be complicit in his lies. And the FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, had said earlier in the day that he wasn't going to tolerate this, that they have an actual duty to uphold the public interest on the airwaves. And Disney caved, as it should have. He had no right. That's literally what some are saying. He had a right to be out there with his show. Swalwell, he's an idiot. He had no right, and now he's accurately and justly been taken off the air. So, Walter, your thoughts on the leftist claim that this is government interference, which does make it a potential free speech problem. I mean, at least they have it right that when the government's involved, you have a potential First Amendment issue. But I mean, my own thought on it is, yes, that's right. But government actually here does have a role that's actually statutorily prescribed.
It absolutely does. Imagine Yellowstone Park, a park that belongs to the people, and it grants a license to one particular company to lead tours. But it says, hey, there's two things. You can't abuse the wildlife and you can't be mean to the tourists. And then it starts abusing the wildlife and being mean to the tourists. Does the federal government have a right to fire that person or at least threaten them with it? Absolutely. Does that company that wants to keep that lease, that special privilege that allows them to make money, have an interest in getting rid of that tour guide? Absolutely. So that's all that happened. The rest is bombast. You have a right to speak, and I'm sure he'll have a very popular Substack or streaming channel, but you do not have the right to a stage that belongs to the people of the United States. And the broadcast airwaves, as I said before, are exactly that. They are a resource like water or land, a set of frequencies.
You know, here's what I want to say about Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert, for that matter, in the podcast lane. Of course, we love it, and we've now really made our livings in it. I mean, I've been over this lane for 5 years, and you're in it too. So we love it, and it's meaningful, and it's the future. We know that. But here's what's so delicious. To Jimmy Kimmel, that's going to be horrible. Like, his recognizing that that's where he has likely to land next is going to be a fate worse than the worst possible outcomes for him, because he thinks he's of ABC and Disney. He's used to going to the theme parks and having his rear end kissed. He wants to be at all the right parties, and he wants to be the king of television. People who are on television think television, the only thing that matters. So he's definitely going to suffer, which is delicious, because he's been the king of enjoying everyone else's cancellation for years. Just to do a quick search for what he said about Tucker when he got booted from Fox for far less controversy than what he just caused. You there? No, there's no SOT, Walter. That's just me asking for your opinion on it.
I was waiting for it. Yeah, I thought that was the big lead up. No. I thought that was the drum roll. Listen, let's get some realism in here about show business and about network news and so on. Jimmy Kimmel was on his way out. Trump predicted that he was next after Colbert months ago. I have a good friend who works in the very small world of late night comedy hosting. Okay. Everyone knew Jimmy was not long for this world. So what he did was he went on a suicide mission at the last minute. He shot his mouth off doing something that would only please the partisans so that he could then pose as a free speech martyr rather than a sad sack toad of a bad comedian.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's like, it's amazing to me because people are like, speaking of Swallow, he tweeted out, he's a comedian. And Scott Adams responded, so was Roseanne. Do cartoonists count? Because, of course, Scott Adams had Dilbert pulled from him, his comment pulled after he said something too controversial. Roseanne got fired for a tweet. She wasn't even in her lane. He was on the air for Disney. Jimmy Kimmel was. And let's not forget, they fired, I tweeted this out last night, Walter, ABC, the Mouse fired Chris Harrison, who hosted The Bachelor, because a bachelorette was unearthed to have had pictures at an antebellum themed party years ago. And he said, oh, geez, shouldn't we judge her by like the way we were at the time as opposed to the way we are now? They fired him. His career never recovered. So why wouldn't they get rid of Kimmel for this?
Bill Maher was fired from his show Politically Incorrect, if I'm not mistaken, because he said something about the 9/11 hijackers. He said whatever else they weren't cowards because they were willing to die for their cause.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
He got canned. He's got his butt. Sorry, I almost swore.
I know, we're not allowed. No swearing. It says right here on my list.
$500 to Turning Point for every swear that comes out of my mouth. But they kicked his butt off the air, and that's not a swear. And he came back because he was talented, because he had a loyal fan base. And I was on his show a couple of weeks ago. Jimmy Kimmel can land on his feet if he wants, but I doubt he will, because the real wonder of it all was that Jimmy Kimmel lasted on the air for as long as he did. He was he had some guardian angel. He didn't have to be funny. He didn't have to pull ratings. He didn't have to speak to half America. He was allowed to insult people at will. He actually campaigned on stage. I just saw a clip this morning of him giving a long talk to Republicans in his audience about why they shouldn't vote for Trump. He wasn't news. He was worse than news. They used him to do things that news isn't allowed to do, like lie.
Yeah, exactly. So now he's reportedly very angry. This is what the trade rags are saying, is that Jimmy Kimmel is furious that this has happened to him, as though he is a passive victim who is really just martyred here because he didn't do anything wrong. It was just taken out of context, and the mean, bad television executives are out to get him. And meanwhile, I just have to get this out. You've got people like on the left, like Ben Stiller, and there are many I could pick on, but I'm going to pick on Ben Stiller here, who decided to tweet out about this, about Jimmy Kimmel's indefinite suspension. This isn't right. Okay, it's not that pointed, whatever, it's fine. This isn't right. That's his belief. We went back just to see if he had said anything about Charlie. Nothing. He couldn't manage "this isn't right" about Charlie Kirk's assassination. But he wants us to feel bad for Jimmy Kimmel, Walter.
It makes you wonder about Hollywood. Aren't they in the business of amusing and pleasing the American public? Apparently not. For a long time now, they've been curiously not in the business of making money, pulling ratings, making good movies, and addressing reality in those movies. They're often some Marvel comic book universe. What exactly are they showing solidarity with? I don't understand it. Do they believe they are guaranteed a future, even if they have the wrath of the American people?
They think they're standing up for the First Amendment, which is so ironic given the way they've been behaving for the past 6 years. They're the ones who backed the Biden regime that censored all of us on COVID, on the Hunter Biden laptop. We could go down the list. They were fine with all of that.
Megyn, you may not agree with this, but the public airwaves, meaning the broadcast networks, which belong to all of us, were bought by the pharmaceutical industry, who are 70% of the advertising. They were purchased by them, and they were used in their behalf. One of Jimmy Kimmel's bits was to make fun of ivermectin as horse paste and claim that anybody who showed up having used it at an emergency room should be allowed to, quote, rest in peace, i.e. die. Well, that drug, ivermectin, was a present danger to Pfizer's vaccine that was coming, and a way of treating people when there were no other real ways pre-vaccine. This guy sung for his supper, for his masters. It wasn't Jimmy Kimmel speaking when that ugly mouth opened. It was a huge industry that spoke through him. And now he's acting like a free speech martyr because that industry is facing the loss of their right to advertise on TV, which they've only had since the late 90s. And so they're drumming up a big First Amendment case so that they can go on buying the news. And that's how I really feel.
It's really incredible. I mean, this is the same group of people who wrote, like Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, actually wrote a letter to Fox News demanding that they not let Tucker Carlson air his special about the J6 event. And that's government actively interfering where it doesn't have any right. The FCC actually does have a right.
And that's the funny thing, Megyn. The government, which does have a right to intervene with public broadcast networks, took that right and extended it into places during COVID and during the Trump era generally, where it doesn't belong. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and so on, cable news, etc. They tried to be the cops in other people's towns, and they succeeded because they intimidated management and they infiltrated it, frankly, over at Twitter.
When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to 10 grand. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.